Maxine's dad got real sick, and we went out to see him. He lived in Scottsdale, and she had a sister living in Coolidge. It was the first time that I'd been that far west, and it really took hold of me. In Coolidge, I went back to playing music at a place called the Galloping Goose with a pair of local boys, Billy Joe Stevens and Claude Henry. Now, I was big time when they found out that I'd been with Buddy Holly. I probably made as much money as they did, which was $15 a night. If I'd tried to be a rock and roll singer, it would have never worked out. I was married for a start with 3 kids, and I didn't feel young. And though I thought it was awful cool for girls to be screaming at us on stage like that, it also frustrated me. Even back then, I wanted people to listen. Now, make no mistake that they were getting their chance now, here in Dove Creek, Colorado. I'm on top of a snack bar dressed in a blazer with some kind of an emblem on it, and Billy Joe was playing lead guitar. I'm strumming rhythm. And behind us is a drummer that we hired for the night from a local strip joint. I told Billy Joe every time I sang White Lightning, I seemed like I wanted to take my clothes off. I did that for a whole summer, round and around and around. Finally, I said to hell with this, and I headed for Salt Lake City. Billy Joe went with me. We got a job in a place called the Esquire Lounge. Billy Joe and I walked in and asked to play there, and the manager hired us, though it was a Dixieland joint. Now, that is, she hired me. Her name was Lynn Mitchell, and she was to become my second wife. I stayed up in Salt Lake City for a couple of months. Then I moved back to Coolidge until a better gig came along in Phoenix at a steakhouse called Wild Bill's. The next thing I know, along came Lynn again. She had followed me down to Arizona. Lynn was about 8 or 9 years older than me, and I never met anybody quite like her. She had a spirit to her that I couldn't see in Maxine. They were like night and day. Lynn liked to mix it up with the boys, outgoing and gone. She worked in bars, and she gave as good as she got. Maxine had had her fill of life in Coolidge. She was going to force my hand. I don't like it here. I'm leaving, and I'm taking the kids with me, going back to Texas. Now, by then, baby Dina was on the way. Now, she knew I loved them, but I couldn't stand her. We were nothing alike. And finally, she moved back to Texas and took the kids, and that was the end of it, and the end of our marriage. Now, her leaving just pushed me and Lynn together. Maxine had done pretty much what I wanted her to, even though I hated to see the kids leave. I knew I hadn't been a good husband to her at all, and I can't tell you one way we were compatible. We never belonged together. I moved over to Frankie's, an old bar which could hold about 90 people on Thomas Road. Billy Joe didn't seem to have the drive for it, and I was going broke in Phoenix. I got a starter Fender guitar and a little amplifier and started performing on my own. There wasn't more than 20 people in Frankie's every show when I began. One night a guy came up to my corner of the riser, which served as a stage, and asked to sit in. He was a heavy-set guy, and he held a guitar left-handed. He wanted so bad to play, even though he worked at a shoe store in the daytime, and would be so tired that he'd almost be asleep on stage, leaning against a piano. We played 4 hours, from 9 to 1. Now, I didn't pay Jerry Gropp anything for a while, and then I got to paying him about $15 a week, I think. I taught him to do what we call the rickety rack, a fast rhythm with straight eights. He was good, and pretty soon he got better than me. His cousin, Ed Metzendorf, was also left-handed, and he had a Dan Electro bass. I think I taught him how to play that as well. I had these 2 guys, and each with their guitars pointing the wrong way, so I looked like the one that was out of place. And I taught them to play in my style. We were a band, at least the start of one. Playing every night was good for me, too. We did everything from rock and roll to country to pop ballads, and the late-night bar crowd started to grow each week. As a singer, I have a wide range, even though I don't have a falsetto. I could sing as high as Roy Orbison, but he couldn't sing as low as me. Pretty soon we were back at Wild Bill's, which probably held about 100 people. It had high ceilings and sawdust on the floor and a Western-type atmosphere that brought out the cowboys. Lynn worked there. She'd always have to go to work early and set up, and I'd be eating bologna sandwiches at home alone. They served dinners till 9, and then I'd go on. They had a huge dance floor, and I couldn't play the races on enough.